Of course, we do have our guest who will be joining us now, and I'd like to tell you that she is a renowned environmental scientist. Rabi Elabor is her name, a woman of integrity and environmental scientist with professional experience in Nigeria and in the USA. Let me tell you a bit about Rabi before we start throwing the questions. She has worked on projects involving water quality, pollution remediation, climate change, and land use. Of course, the sustainable aquaculture and environmental risk assessment. And that's not all. She has so many awards to her name and her credit, over 10 publications and global presentations. She is committed to advancing solutions at the intersection of environment, technology, community development, with a vision to harness science, data, and advocacy for a more sustainable future. So that is why we have brought Rabi today to talk about something very critical to the environment sector, particularly in the water sector of Nigeria's economy, smart water solutions for our sustainable environment. We'll be taking particular interest on how emerging technologies are protecting water, agriculture, and ecosystems. So Rabi Elabor, it's a pleasure to have you join us, and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you're doing research in the USA. We'll come to your research and the outcomes as well, or what you are, actually hoping to achieve with that research. But first, let's find out from you how you would define climate smart water management, and what do you think makes it very critical at this time, particularly when it comes to today's water, agricultural, and environmental sustainability.
Thank you. Actually, climate smart water management is basically means the ability to actually use water in a sustainable manner and adaptively, regardless of the challenges we are facing with climate and other environmental pollution, using tools like digital technology, innovation, remote sensing, and these actually would help us tackle some threats that has to do with flooding, water scarcity, and pollution to help us improve our water use efficiency.
Do you think those climate smart issues will work in Nigeria? And why do you think this digital technology has not been employed in the country to deal with some of the climate challenges we face?
I wouldn't say they are not actually employed. They are actually being used, but it now depends on how often do we use it and how available are this data for, because for you to use a tool, you actually need to put input data, and this data could be in form of pixels or could be in form of numbers. And sometimes most of these data are not readily available or publicly available, making it difficult for researchers and individuals and institutions to have access to this data for more research.
Are they available in the US where you are, and how can Nigeria tap into that?
We have the global data available, and the United States has actually done well with making data available. We have data from the NOAA, we have data from the United States Department of Agriculture, as well as other agencies that have data readily available and make them available for students, researchers, and individuals to access this data to make research findings that influence policies and also national development. And interestingly, in the United States, most research are being funded to enable researchers and institutions make scalable discovery that could help with water management as well as environmental sustainability.
Okay, let's go into climate-related challenges. Even though you are in the US at the moment, we know you've been here in the country, and you must have seen the challenges that the country faces. So what would you say are the climate-related challenges which are currently in the country affecting water resources and agriculture, particularly in drought-prone or flood-affected regions like the inland watersheds and coastal zones of the country?
Nigeria has a vast land and coastal region. We have both coastal and inland water supply. We could see recently we've been having a lot of flooding. When rain falls, we have a lot of flooding, and we'll also be having challenges with sea level rising, where the sea gets so gets so high that it actually floods into coastal cities and destroy farms as well as properties. So, and this actually exposes us to disasters, because when there's flooding, we actually exposed to diseases as well, and damages of plants. So, some of these challenge climate factors also help destroy diversity, leads to deforestation, as well as all of these other factors. So I think it's important that we look into these factors and see how we can mitigate these challenges. And this is where my research comes in, to see how we can use advanced technology and emerging technologies to make informed decisions.
Okay, so the worry for many Nigerians is that there are so many researchers like yours, with findings and results and reports, littering and gathering dust in many probably government agencies and all that for environmental managers, which are not being deployed. So how do you intend to ensure that the outcomes and the recommendations from your, report or research or survey will be used by policymakers in Nigeria, environmental experts or managers as well, and including farmers, since we are talking about water, smart climate and water here. So how exactly do you think you can get this across to those who really need it to improve what we're talking about?
I think one of the ways we can actually get research across to the people, to the public, and to the scientific community and the farmers that actually need it, is one, by going to scientific conferences to publish, to present your research findings and seeing how this can be implemented. Another method I use is putting my works in medias and also in publications where people could have easy access to them, and see how these findings can also be implemented in the region. But looking at how can these findings affect farmers or the fishermen in that actually need the results, would be by actually collaborating and partnering with organizations, also partnering with the grassroots and the farmers, to see how these our findings can influence their productivities, their yield, and also their water availability. And one interesting thing again is that helps with water management would be water harvesting, where the government can actually create local man-made lakes or dams to collect excess water from rainfalls, and this water can also be used for irrigations for the farmers as well. And also, research can be used to inform farmers who want to who wants to fish or farm aquaculture in the open waters.
When do you intend to come home to get that done, really? You are far away in the US, and I'm sure you're not meeting Nigerian farmers there. So when do you hope to come home so that people can begin to tap into some of your findings and recommendations?
Interestingly, I can't really say for sure when I'll be coming, but I intend to come soon. And I've been gathering some experience. I work with farmers here, especially the aquaculture farmers. My research will also involve me talking to
That's
local
US, you mean
farmers.
US farmers, right?
Yes, the US farmers. And all of these experiences I'm gathering, all of this data collection would actually help me replicate that when I get to Nigeria, and see how, and collaborate with other people to see how we can get this. I'm currently I'm trying to get in touch with some ministries in Nigeria, especially the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, to see how we can collaborate, to see to reach out to see how our research could get our results could get to the public back in Nigeria, and see how that can influence water management as well as the productivity.
Okay, one last question before we let you go. We need to expand this. I know there are many other researchers out there trying to get some of this information, out how to better what we do here, our climate, our environment, our water management, our agriculture, and all of that. But another sector is actually improving water access itself, access to water. And then food production is another important issue, and environmental protection. So how can we expand this kind of project you're doing to reach all of that?
Thank you. Like, I think it's important for us to realize that I think globally over 2.2 billion people do not have access to water, according to WHO. And with the current global climate and the environmental, natural disaster, it's limiting us to how much access to clean water we have. And also with the current rise in the ocean, making salt water intrude into fresh water, limiting how much access we have, because fresh water is what is actually used for agriculture, for human consumption, and for every other consumption for human and most of the environmental use. So our research helps predict, one of my research on land use, land cover, to actually predict how water management and how activities would affect water and agriculture. And I think another important thing is the government needs to be able to provide funding for institutions, so where students and researchers would have access to these grants and enable them to do research that can be scalable and actually profile solution, not research that would be left in the on the decks. So our research should be emphasized on influencing policies.
Yes, indeed. Research should emphasize on influencing policies. Otherwise, all the efforts of researchers would just go down the drain. We must appreciate you once again for making our time. I know it's early morning right there in the U.S., so for making our time to be with
Yes.
us on the program, we appreciate that. I've been speaking with Rabi Elabor, an environmental scientist with professional experience, both here in Nigeria and in the USA. It's a pleasure having you. Do stay safe in the U.S. where you are, and do have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me, and have a good day.
All right. It's been Rabi Elabor in our program today as our guest. She is an environmental scientist with a professional experience in the USA and Nigeria, as I said earlier. Do stay with us. We'll be back with other segments of Environment Today.